I will be showing you step by step how to create the center of the peony, the petals, the filler flowers and foliage, embellishments, and how to put together this floral arrangement. We'll need a grooving rolling board, rolling pins, wires, 18, 26 and 28 gauge wires in white and green, and floral tape. To cut the tape, I'm going to use a tape shredder, but if you don't have one, you can simply use a scissor and cut the tape in half. I will use peony leaf cutters from Wilton to cut the foliage and PME peony petal cutters to create the petals of the flowers. To create the filler flowers, I will use a little scissor. To make the scent of the peony, I will need some stamens. To cut the wires, I will need a plier, and for frilling the petals, I will be using a Dresden tool or bowl tool, cone tool, and a star tool will be useful to create the filler flower. For conditioning the paste, we need some tracks. For drying the paste, we need some corn flour. We need a soft pad for frilling the petals and a dimple foam mat for drying the petals. To get a clean cut of the leaves and petals, an abrasive mat will be ideal. If you want to put some embossing onto the leaves and petals, you need to get yourself some veiners. For making the petals and leaves, I will be using my own gum paste. For details on how to make it, just look for the video containing information about how to make your own gum paste. I will condition the paste by kneading with a touch of shortening tracks. Then I will start rolling the paste over the grooves. I will place the paste in the shape of a sausage at the base of the board. Then I will apply pressure with a rolling pin. First of all, rolling towards me to secure the paste, and then stretching the paste away from me, aiming for a thin finishing. Once you notice that the paste is rolled thinly and the grooves are visible, place the cutters on top of the grooves, trying to position the grooves through the center of each petal. Then use the plunge to emboss the petal. Then press the cutter to cut through the paste. Then peel off the excess paste. When rolled and embossed correctly, those petals will have a nice texture and a good grooving on the back of each petal. Cut 26 gauge wires, either white or green, in pieces about 2 to 2.5 inches long. Dip the end of each wire into edible glue, then insert on the groove on the back of each petal. You only need to insert about half of an inch of wire onto the petal. Emboss and cut 2-3 petals at once, then wire them. Place them on the soft pad and start frilling the edges of each petal. To frill, you can use a bowl tool, bone tool, cone tool, or the rounded end of a Dresden tool. All you need to do is to apply pressure, doing backwards and forwards movements along the very edge of each petal. Make sure that you apply a very good pressure and you keep rolling the tool along the edge, backwards and forwards. Then place the petals on the dimple foam to dry, shaping the base of the petal as a little cup. Make sure you position the tool right on the edge of the petal. Not inside the petal, not out of the petal, just along the edge, and apply a good pressure. Then if the pressure is correct and the tool is positioned in the right spot, the paste will start bouncing, creating nice frills. You will need to make about 7 petals of each size, 7 small, 7 medium and 7 large. While all the petals are drying on my dimple foam, I will start making some foliage. I will roll the green gum paste on the board in the same way like I did for creating the petals. As my leaf cutters don't have a plunge, I will flip the paste upside down so that I can see where the grooves are, and I will cut the petals, again aiming for the groovings to get through the center of each leaf. I will cut some more wires, 26 gauge green wires, 2 to 2.5 inches long. I will dip the end of each wire into the glue and insert the wire as I've done previously on the base of each leaf. Then I will use the veiners to emboss the surface of each leaf. I will position the leaf in between the 2 parts of the veiner, and I will apply pressure to texture the leaf. Then I will place the leaf on the dimple foam to dry. I will repeat for every leaf created. Depends on the preference on how much foliage you want to add to this floral arrangement, how many leaves you are going to create. I will suggest to make at least 8 to 9 leaves. When you constantly use gum paste, you can store it in front of you under a plastic container. But once you've finished, you need to place it into a Ziploc bag away from air. To make the center of the peony, I will pinch a small piece of paste, rolling it into a cone shape. A 26 gauge wire about 2 inches long will be inserted into the glue and then on the wide end of the cone shape. Using the sharp end of the Dresden tool, I will mark a line through the center of that cone and then curve the tip and make 4 similar shapes in total. Along with those light green curved cone shapes made out of gum paste, I will need some stamens as well to finish off the center. To create those bunches of stamens, I will be using about 7 to 8 stamens and a piece of wire, 26 gauge wire, and a piece of tape. To help the tape to get sticky, you'll need to stretch it a little. Pick the side which has got the most quantity of the wax and start twisting super tightly around the wire. If it gets too sticky on your fingers, dry your fingers using some corn flour. Secure the stamens on the end of the wire by wrapping the tape around tightly. You will need to make 4 bunches of stamens. I'm now going to create some freehand foliage. I will cut few pieces of 2 inches green 26 gauge wires. I will pick a small amount of green paste, roll it into a ball and a cone shape. I will flatten the cone shape, put the wire through the wide end and then mark the center of the flattened cone shape with my Dresden tool. I will create quite a few of those leaves. I will suggest about 30-35. I will start now setting the center of the flower. I will be using an 18 gauge wire and a piece of green tape. I will stretch the tape, start wrapping the tape around the wire, and then start adding the curved little beans created previously. I will put them in a cross shape and make sure that when I tape those beans, the wires do get completely covered by the tape. Once all those beans are nicely positioned and taped around the main wire, I will start attaching and taping quite tightly the stamens, one by one, in between two of the bins. I will continue alternating one bin, one bunch of stamens. I will keep adding the bins and the stamens till they all go up nicely around the main wire. I will tape them properly to make sure they look nice and they are not loose. Some of the thin wires can be cut away, or they can be simply taped, making the main wire to look thicker. To make the filler flowers, I will pick some 28 gauge wires, which I will cut a bit longer, about 5 to 6 inches in length. I will create a little hook on the end of each wire. I will grab a small piece of paste, roll it into a ball shape, then into a cone shape. Once I've got the cone shape in place, I will flatten the wide end, use a star tool and mark 5 petals. Then using a scissor, I will cut and separate all the petals one by one. I will pick every petal in between my thumb and finger. I will squash it and then I will round the top. So squash and round, so that my little flower will have flat and rounded petals. Then I will insert the wire, securing the wire with a hook. There is no need of glue, and the wire can be slightly curved for a more natural look. With the help of a toothpick, I will place a touch of glue right in the center and a little nonpareil to cover the hook of the wire. To speed up the process of drying your leaves and petals, you can use a fan. Now it's the time to put the leaves together in small bunches and create the foliage. With the help of a full width green tape, I will secure 3 to 5 leaves on a piece of wire cut about 5 to 6 inches long. I'm using an 18 gauge wire. The first leaf is set right on the top of the wire. Then the wire is taped down and the other leaves are getting attached one by one, leaving some gaps in between the leaves, about 1 to 1.5 inches. That will be useful when you will start shaping the branch. It will give you enough room to maneuver the wire. You can leave one of the wires a bit longer and attach the other two a bit smaller to the main one to make this kind of a branch. Bend the wires and spread the leaves so that the branch gets a more natural look. To set the freehand made foliage, I will be using again 18 gauge wires and full width green tape. I will use different length wires like 2.5 inches or 5 to 6 inches and create small bunches of leaves. I will place one leaf right at the top, then I will continue to attach leaves, leaving about 1 to 1.5 inches in between each taped leaf. It is important to leave distance in between the leaves when you tape so that you can spread the leaves one side and the other of the wire to give the branch a more natural look. Some of the small branches will be attached to the longest one to create a more natural effect. Don't forget when you tape to stretch the tape to make it sticky. Then once all the leaves and little branches are set on the main one, start spreading the leaves and start bending the wires just to create the effect wanted. When you tape your leaves and petals, make sure that you tape them properly so that the wires don't get loose. You can set the dry petals around the center of the peony as they are, but if you want to add more charm, you should do a bit of dusting. To dust the petals, I will be using some tissues to protect the surface, some dust colors, and a selection of brushes. It is a good habit to wear gloves when dusting and also to wear a mask to prevent the dust getting into your nose when you breathe. I have a large selection of brushes and I usually intend to keep one brush for one color, but if you only have one or two brushes handy, keep them for the main colors. As my peony petals are light pink, I will use some pink dust to enhance the color. I actually have a mix of hot pink and light pink with a touch of red, which I've mixed with a little brush on a piece of tissue. I will apply this dust on each petal. You can apply it on the front of the petal, also on the back of the petal. And I would start brushing in the dust from the edge, the top edge of the petal towards the base of the petal. With some burgundy dust, I will enhance the top edge of each petal, making the petal to stand out. To add a fresh look to the petals, I will touch the base of each petal with some light spring green. The brands and colors of the dusts are a matter of personal preference. I quite often use dusts like Sugar Flare, PME, Squire's Kitchen, but there are many other brands available and all of them will do a good job. To dust the center of the peony, I will be using spring green along the beans and also a little touch of burgundy just to add a darker shade to the very tip of each bean. Dusting the flowers, it is a time-consuming process, so if you do it for a cake order, you should charge accordingly. Now that I've got all ready to go, I will start putting the peony all together. I will use a full width green tape, start wrapping the tape around the center of the peony, and then I will add one by one all the petals, starting with the very small ones, going up to the medium size and then large. While taping your flower, do remember, tape needs to be stretched in order to wrap properly. If it gets too sticky in your fingers, dry your fingers with corn flour. Cover every single piece of wire when you wrap your petals around the center. If you need to bend the wire to make the petal to fit, bend the wire and not the petal, as the petal will break. This video is not related in any way with competition work, so we are not aiming for a botanically correct flower. We will fit around the center as many petals as we think will look good. On this particular flower, I've used just 5 of the small petals. After taping those 5 small petals, I've started adding the medium-sized petals, and in the end I've put about 7 of those. So this sugar peony will have 5 small petals, 7 medium-sized petals, 7 large-sized petals. Whenever you need to pick a new piece of tape, do not forget to stretch it and tape it tightly so that all the petals will be set in place and will not turn up loose. Add petals one by one and rub the tape around the wire for 2-3 times before adding a new petal. Constantly check to make sure that petals are well positioned and the wires are covered completely. If necessary, pull the wire so that the tape starts right from the base of each petal, covering the full amount of wires. Making sugar flowers is an art. It turns up not being quite cheap, as you need to invest in cutters, tape, wires, brushes, colors, equipment, and so on. It's also time consuming, but it can practically be used as a therapy. It is enjoyable to spend time creating beautiful decorations. In the end, the reward you get is priceless. The greatest thing when it comes to sugar flowers is that anyone can create those beauties. Following the correct instructions, with just a bit of practice, you can achieve great results in little time. Once all the petals are taped onto the flower, you will need to carry on taping the stem. Stretch the tape, wrap it tightly till you cover the whole main wire. This is going to be the support for creating your floral arrangement. I'm now going to start dusting the filler flowers. Using some spring green, I will color the base of each flower and the centers for a fresh look. Then using some hot pink, I will highlight the edge of the petals. If at any point you decide not to make those filler flowers, that's absolutely fine. Your sugar flower arrangement will still look great based on your sugar peonies and the foliage. To dust the foliage, I will use some burgundy, which I will brush through the center of each leaf and on the edges. Then I will blend in using some moss green. You can also use forest green. There is a variety of greens available to buy from various suppliers. All those green dusts will look great if they are used in a mix of colors. For example, apple green with some moss green and gooseberry, or forest green with apple green and some moss green. For a fresh look, spring green is always great. The next step will be to create some embellishments for my floral arrangement. I'm going to use some sparkly tape, that is the PME tape, which comes in different colors from silver, gold, black, pink, blue, green. You get those nice colors, all sparkly. I'm going to tape a soft wire. This is just a wire which I bought from a supermarket. I only paid like £1 for 50 meters. It's a wire suitable for doing gardening works, so it's not for sugar flowers in particular, but it's soft and easy to bend and maneuver. Now if you tape quite a few wires at the same time, you might get some cramps in your hands. If that happens, just stretch your fingers and the pain will disappear and the muscles will relax. Now when you finish taping the wires, by the way, if it's a long wire, you might need to create a loop right at the end so that you don't get hurt by the sharp end of the wire. So when you finish taping this wire, you can start creating different shapes. I will just give an example of twisted wire. I'm going to use a medium-sized rolling pin and create few curls. Then I will carry on with a smaller rolling pin and do some more swirls, and then I will use a wooden skewer for even tighter finishing on this wire. So that's an example of an embellishment which can be used for a floral arrangement. You can also create loops or circles or other shapes like heart shapes, or there is a variation of shapes you can very easily create. Now for this particular demonstration, I'm going to create a set of 3 loops, 3 different sizes, but all covered with the same colored tape. So I will stretch the tape, start covering those wires top to bottom. I will tape all 3 ends together. In one side I will leave extra piece of wire that will help me to secure a wooden skewer later, as having a wooden skewer at the end of the floral arrangement, it makes it quite easy to set on the cake without using a posy pick. As you know, you are not allowed to insert wires straight onto the cake, so you either use a posy pick, which is a plastic support, or you attach food grade support like wooden skewer onto your floral arrangement, and that can go straight onto the cake. So I will carry on securing those loops with the help of the tape, leaving just a small piece of extra wire, which, as I've mentioned, it will be used later to secure the wooden skewer. Now we'll take my sugar flowers, sugar leaves, and try and mimic sort of a design and see how they look better. Now this is obviously like a personal preference. We all see things differently, so it's so much personality on doing floral arrangements. There are rules which you can learn about, and there are literally rules for arranging real flowers. You can just book yourself into a course and learn how to do real flower arrangements if you want to get more skilled into floral arrangements. It's something so personal. It's like the way we get dressed and we put our makeup and decorate our rooms. It's just the way how we see things and how we try to balance our creations. So I've decided to use the both pieces of foliage, the one based on peony leaves and the other one based on the free handmade leaves. I've taped one of the branches on one side of the loops, the other one on the other side, keeping the base of the loops as the focal point of my floral arrangement. I will then attach the filler flowers. You can obviously attach the filler flowers later, but I've decided to attach them now. Whenever you put leaves or flowers, sugar flowers, onto your arrangement, you just need to make sure that they will be all visible. Sugar flowers are so much different than the real flowers. They don't move at all. So you need to place them in the right spot if you want them to be admired. If you don't place them in the right spot, then it's pretty much likely they will not be seen, and the beauty of those flowers will not be seen. So you've spent all this time and effort creating something which is not going to be noticed, and that's not good. Now, if you are afraid that you might drop this floral arrangement at any point, just use something soft like a piece of foam underneath your floral arrangement, just on the table in front of you. So as I said, in case that you will drop the flowers, they will not get broken. Continue to secure your flowers and the leaves as you go along. Make sure that you don't rush, you tape properly, and you take your time to put everything in place. Always remember that all those leaves and petals are made out of sugar, so they are breakable. Also, while you are setting the flowers and leaves into the right spot, try and place the petals, spread the petals by twisting, bending the wires, but carefully. Now, usually the wires are very easy to be maneuvered, and I'm referring to the wires which are inserted on the petals. The petals are completely dry now, but the wires are still flexible. So when you need to move those petals, make sure that you support the petals and you only bend the wire, not the petals. But try and find the right position, make the petals to look a bit more relaxed. That will just help the flower to get a much bigger size and to look and show the beauty. Continue to tape. Make the sugar flower secure on your arrangement. If it keeps moving around and it gets a bit loose, try and find a way to secure it properly, because it's not good to have a flimsy flower. In the end, that will probably break. So you really don't want that to happen after so much effort. You can create a sugar flower arrangement using just one flower, kind of a statement flower, or you can create an arrangement out of 3 flowers, for example. So just to give you a bit more in depth, I'm going to attach 2 more peonies to this floral arrangement. I will set the second one on one side. But bear in mind, they are all sugar flowers, so it might be the case that 1 or 2 petals will break. That's not the end of the world, but I will try my best to stay safe and maneuver those delicate flowers carefully. So I've got the red one to position in the center, and that's the most tricky one to set, because I want all those flowers to be visible in full, but also want the floral arrangement to be quite compact, with no gaps in between. So it will just need to fit the 3rd flower in between quite gently, not to break it. I will constantly use tape to secure all those flowers as I go along, and every single piece of tape, as I've mentioned, it needs to be stretched. I will also attach the wooden skewer, the one which I've already talked about. So that wooden skewer will be set around the stem of my third flower, and then that's going to go over the floral arrangement, and it will be secured along with that extra piece of wire which I've left spare right at the beginning. Okay, that will just give me a good grip, and it will secure the whole floral arrangement, so when this will be set on the cake, it will not get flumpy or loose. Now that I've got all my flowers and foliage set on the arrangement, all I've got left is to find the right spot for every single piece of decoration. So it might be the case that I need to twist some of the leaves or some of the flowers to make sure that they are all visible, there are not gaps in between, there are no wires sticking or looking horrible on the side. It all looks balanced and nice. So I've got here 3 examples of sugar flowers arrangements, all based on peonies. Let's see how we can set them on the cake now. Using a large wooden dowel, drill a hole into the cake in the area where you want to set your floral arrangement. Make sure you don't drill the hole too close to the edge of the cake. Insert the wooden skewer of your floral arrangement and then just tidy up, placing the leaves and flowers in the right position. Look forward to see your project. Good luck!